Are you way more woke than all your stupid, asleep people around you? Are you on your way ascending to the fifth dimension while everyone else is going to be stuck in this hell of 3D? Or are you someone who is just way too enlightened to ever experience negative emotions such as anger and sadness? If you said yes to all of these, you may be a spiritual narcissist. So, spiritual narcissism occurs when the ego essentially attaches itself to spirituality as a means of gratifying the ego's needs, right? A spiritual ego is an incredibly dangerous form of ego, right? One of the people that I learned under, he essentially said that giving a spiritual person an ego is essentially equivalent to giving a chimpanzee a machine gun. Spiritual egoism or spiritual ego is essentially how cult leaders come about. Right? It is very dangerous when we start taking the concepts of higher powers and all that and use it to gratify our own self-interest, right? How does this happen? Well, many who undergo a spiritual awakening often have a heavy history of trauma. And with a heavy history of trauma comes a lot of internal pain, it comes a lot of internal shame and guilt, right? And so our egoic structure, our ego, well, we have egos because they help protect us from pain and uncertainty, all right? And so the more internal shame we have, right, the more internal uncomfortable feelings we have, the more heightened our ego can become, right? So, sorry guys. So we have to do, when we go through a spiritual awakening, we essentially have to do a lot of ego and shadow work, all right? It's okay. When you're in this really tumultuous time of your life during a spiritual awakening, your ego is going to attach itself to spirituality. It's going to attach itself to spiritual labels such as starseed, right, indigo, whatever these things are. The important thing is to continue to move through, continue to be conscious of this, continue to cultivate awareness around it, all right? Our true self, right, it recognizes that every soul around us is just as important as ours, okay? And we all just have unique, different life purposes or are carrying out different things or have different learning experiences, all right? So it's very important just to notice when the ego attaches itself to spiritual concepts as a way to accentuate itself, to take you away from the uncomfortable feelings that you have to feel inside. We can't feel all our internal shame at once, right? Which is why a spiritual ego is going to happen, okay? But the important thing is to continue to move through it in a moderated way. So what are some signs of a spiritual narcissist? Well, it's someone that's going to constantly be invalidating other people's feelings and emotions, right? It can also be called toxic positivity, right? If you express anger, sadness, rage, anything like that, they're going to invalidate those feelings and they're just kind of going to be like, oh, you got to be high vibe, right? They're also going to try to maintain control over others and dictate their behaviors, right? So if you have a spiritual teacher who's constantly telling you what to do and telling you the actions to do and not giving you any freedom or allowing you to come to those decisions yourself, right? It's likely this person has not worked enough on their ego. They also believe that their way is the only way, all right? So if you're going to a healer, a teacher, a practitioner, they're not going to encourage you to seek out other support. They're not going to encourage you to seek out other practitioners. They're going to actually guilt and shame you if you seek out anyone beyond you, right? They also have a frequent public display of their spiritual practices. So if you go on Instagram, which is going to be posted on obviously, you'll constantly see they have pictures of them meditating or in yoga retreats or them talking and bragging about all their spiritual nuances and practices. The reality of this is oftentimes awakenings and stuff are really ugly. You're going to be crying, you're going to be releasing anger, you're going to be feeling all your internal shame. It's not a pretty process. So if someone is only highlighting the pretty aspects of this practice, it's likely they're stuck in ego. They will also not associate and they will look down on others, right, who aren't as high vibe or woke as them, right? One of the important things is that we're all on our own path. We all come across spirituality or whatever for different reasons at different times for different means, right? Just because we're in a spiritual practice does not mean that we're better or above anyone else. So when you catch yourself or when you see someone else constantly talking down like, oh, they're so asleep, how can they be so stupid? That is signs that you may be experiencing someone who has attached their ego to spirituality too much. Also, last one is They do not admit mistakes. They do not admit their humaneness. They do not find fault within themselves, okay? Right? They're constantly shifting blame onto other people. Also, they use spiritual practices as a means of escapism and are constantly focused on maybe the concept of ascension, right? About ascending past the physical reality, rather than using these practices to integrate themselves within this physical reality, to better internalize and deal with their pain and their uncomfortable emotions, rather than escape them. So last one. How do we choose a spiritual teacher and practitioner? I worked with 2 different shamans along my path, and I had to be very conscientious, not only about not putting them on a pedestal, but about making sure that their ego was integrated within the spiritual practices. So first off, take your time to research and check out this teacher before you commit to them, right? Make sure to possibly talk to others and seek out others who've worked with them and what their experiences were like. Also check, does this teacher acknowledge their humanity? Or are they constantly shaming and blaming other people, not accepting responsibility for anything? Does your teacher believe that they have all the magical answers, right? And do they seem to be threatened by you? Okay, this is a big one. As a practitioner, teacher, healer, whatever you want to call it, right? It's important that this person respect you, right? That it's not about a hierarchy type thing. If they feel threatened by you, right? They don't look at you as just another person, right? This is a sign, okay? If they feel threatened that you are not accentuating their status in themselves, it's a red flag. Does the teacher ever seem to justify harmful behavior through spiritual explanations, okay? This means that they could hurt you, right? Or that they're not treating you correctly, or they're invalidating their feelings, but yet they're using spiritual explanations to bypass responsibility. They're there saying, oh, well, this is just carrying out a past life. Or, oh, you just allowed this into your life through your negative thoughts. This isn't about me, right? These things, to shift away responsibility or to invalidate your experiences through spiritual explanations, not someone you might want to work with. Lastly, but not least, are they constantly marketing and selling their products and services, right? Every time you're working with them or going to them, it's all about this product, this service, upselling you, right? Trying to get money out of you. Now, money and is a big part of this energetic exchange of services, right? I had to get really comfortable with allowing myself to receive money for my services, right? And receive it accordingly to what my value was. But if that's their only focus, if that's all they're ever trying to do, once again, it's a red flag, right? This needs to be integrated. More so than anything else, never put a spiritual teacher or practitioner on a pedestal. We're all human. I'm very human. I make mistakes all the fucking time, okay? And so it's incredibly important that you not put this person on a pedestal, that you just recognize that this teacher may just be someone who's gone through these experiences a little bit earlier than you, right? Oftentimes, like the perfect teacher, practitioner, that's my dog, thank you. All right, so he took the cue. I'm just gonna wrap this up, but oftentimes the perfect spiritual teacher or practitioner is someone who may just be a few years ahead in terms of their spiritual journey. Not that they're better, not that they're more gifted, but that they've just experienced it a little bit sooner, okay? And now they can provide context, nuance, direction, and guidance to your path. But ultimately, you have the answers. Not the teacher, you. And it is a teacher's job to help you find the answers within yourself. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and look forward to continuing to make videos.